everybody, and welcome to the Maria Gonçalves podcast. I'm your host, Maria Gonçalves, and today we have two special guests. We have my co host, Dana Louise, all the way from Australia.
Hi, everyone. Just a pleasure to be here once again and super excited to be invited by Maria. Maria's super excited tonight, so I knew it was a special guest coming on. And I did have to do the show well, it's 3 a.m. here in Australia. So we have a fantastic episode coming up. Thanks
Yeah,
for having me, Maria.
and today we have our special guest, Indigenous medium Shawn Leonard. So, welcome, Shawn.
Well, thank you for having me on, Maria and Dana. Thank you for being here today.
I'm super excited. So I am going to read just a tiny little bio about Shawn. So Shawn Leonard is a heart-centered Indigenous psychic medium and the star and host of APTN TV show Spirit Talker, taking an authentic approach to the spirit world in his readings, live shows, and media appearances. Shawn imparts enormous wisdom and knowledge of the spirit world and spirit communication. He teaches the Spirit Talker Tribe online course to hundreds of students each year. And I will say, my friends have taken it and they love you, Shawn. They learned so much. So if you guys are considering that course, highly recommend it. He is also a Hay House author and a national bestseller of the book Spirit Talker, Indigenous Stories and Teachings from how do you say it? Mi'kmaq?
Mi'kmaq.
Sorry?
Mi'kmaq.
Perfect. Psychic medium and the creator of the Oracle deck, Wisdom of the Elders Oracle. So there's the book. If you guys don't have it, go get it. I love this book. And everybody knows I'm addicted to Oracle cards. So this is his. So definitely highly recommend getting both of these. Okay, everybody? So Shawn, can you tell us, first of all, I want to say I was guided by spirit to purchase this book after the passing of my dad last year, Halloween day, he passed away. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, when you have so many experiences that happen to you through life, that naturally, these things that happen to each of us aren't meant just for us. And I feel when you have a life experience is something that extends your wisdom, your knowledge, and the way you see life, the way that you approach life, the way that you connect to spirit, even, that I think it's meant to be shared. And when I, decided to write it, it was actually, I was not a Hayos author at the time. I wrote another book called The Language of Spirit. And I self-published, and I self-published for this publishing company called Balboa Press, which is a sister company of Hay House. And, I was hoping that someday, maybe potentially, that, it might get noticed and that maybe become a Hayos author. But it was like very high aspirations because it's kind of difficult to be published by Hayos. And I wasn't really too married to the idea either, because I mean, the most important part of putting information out in the world is to put it out into the world. So when I self-published, I think I spent like between ghost writers and editors and self-publishing. I spent like, 18,000 Canadian to self-publish my book and get it out into the world. And I think after all the years of having it out there, like 2 to 3 years, I broke even,
Yeah.
which is amazing to break even because I mean, it's not about enriching your life in some way about having a book out there, but with a series of things that kind of happened. And that's, how what I put in the book as well, Spirit Talkers, because when I did get picked up by Hayos, it was a sequence of events that kind of just aligned to allow me to be part of the Hayos team, and so I'm really grateful. And so when I put it out, and what inspired me was to share my life experiences, because I think again, going through life, when you have these experiences, they're not just meant for you personally. They're meant to be shared because the creator wouldn't entrust you with these experiences unless they're going to help expand the consciousness or the understanding of the world in some way, help it understand our spirit connection even a little bit greater. Because I think there's a process of evolution that's taking place within all of us. It's not just myself, it's all the people within the world. So in order to help people understand my perspective from my point of view as a Mi'kmaq person living in Nova Scotia, Canada, I thought it'd be amazing to kind of share those stories and put out. And the creator, obviously Spirit, had an alignment, or had a hand in all this, and aligned everything so that I could share it through Hay House eventually. And so that's what Spirit Talker is. It's a rewrite of my first self-published book with like 16 new chapters, and all the chapters were rewritten a little bit, edited obviously by the Hay House team. And,
Yeah.
fortunately, because it became a national bestseller in Canada.
Oh, it is an excellent book. And I love when you share about the passing of your dad and the emotions you felt, because that I feel like it gives people permission to feel different things. And then the first time you saw him after his passing, can you share that story?
Well, I mean, having a visitation from somebody you love is very profound. And I remember losing my father, which was very dramatic. I mean, who wouldn't be? I was 15 years old. It was October 16th, 1987. And I remember my mom waking me up very early in the morning saying, Shawn, there's something wrong with your father. He's out in the driveway. So I quickly ran out of my underwear and my t-shirt because that was my pajamas. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. It's cold. You could see my breath. My dad just bought a secondhand truck. He was in the military, in the Navy in Nova Scotia. He's a hunter, fisher, drank a little bit on the weekends, didn't eat very good. And, mind you, I didn't expect to lose my father at 42 years old. So I run outside looking for my dad. And for whatever reason, this is where it gets really kind of odd for me, and maybe for a lot of people, is that he wasn't there. And I walked around his whole truck looking for him, and he was not there. Physically, he was not there. And I went inside very confused, wondering what my mom was talking about, thinking that my mom and dad had some type of argument, and he walked away. And she's calling 911 and calling neighbors, and she goes, "Go back out and look, he is there." So I went out, walked around the whole truck again, went inside, and for whatever reason, again, my father wasn't there. I thought, this is so odd. My mom must be tripping here. There's something going on with my mom. So she actually says, "Come with me." She grabs me, brings me outside, and points me at my father. And it wasn't until that moment that I could see him. It's mind-boggling to me because I mean I was very tired, obviously, but I never lost anybody before so close to me. And I've experienced like loss, but nobody that was like very personal. And so when I saw my father, I started to perform CPR. I was like kind of puzzled, like, how is it that I walked around the truck twice? Now, in front of the truck with the door open, he was laying there on the ground. I must have had to walk right through him, over him several times without actually consciously seeing him. And so as I'm performing CPR, I even though I'm an Indigenous person and I don't have very much connection to my culture at that time, my mom, um, forced me, against my will to go to church and maybe go to catechism, the whole nine yards in relation to Catholic faith, and it's not something I really aligned with, but I went through it because my mom kind of made me. And so I didn't really have a whole lot of faith, and I didn't have a lot of understanding of spirit. Although I've had other experiences in my life, I would just think that maybe I could brush these off as like maybe just a coincidence, or maybe it's just a dream, or maybe wasn't real, but this is real. And here I am working on my father, and I yelled out to him, I cursed at him, and I could feel his spirit, around me. And it was just me and him out there. Mind you, his body was void of that essence of that we all call a spirit. Because I mean, when you're emanating through this form, obviously there's an aura, there's a light, there's a beingness that's within a person that was no longer in my father. So it was almost like it's a rock now, or a board laying on the ground. There's just no essence of who my father is. And I could feel him though. I couldn't see him, but I could feel him. And even though I cursed, I yelled, I swore, I did it all, telling him to get back in his freaking body. I could tell in my heart, and I knew somewhere on a subconscious level that, my dad's not coming back. And I thought, okay, how is it that I couldn't see him too? Like, here I'm performing CPR, yelling at him, and I could feel that he's not coming back. And I felt almost hopeless. And I think, there might be two scenarios because I have a daughter who's a psychologist now. And I would think, well, maybe I was in shock, right? Maybe I was in shock and I wasn't ready to experience something like that. And, because, there's, stories of ancient Indigenous people where boats were floating by and the Indigenous people couldn't actually see them because they just wasn't in their reality, right? So maybe this was happening to me and I wasn't unaware of it. And then I'm thinking, well, maybe I wasn't meant to find him. Maybe I wasn't meant to save him. Maybe if I was able to see him sooner, that I would resuscitate him and bring him back to life. But maybe that's not his purpose. Maybe that's not his path, right?
Yeah.
And perhaps maybe both of those things are true. Maybe they both are true. So anyway, some neighbors came down. It seemed like an eternity that went by, and I knew my father had lost his life. 42 years old, massive heart attack. Again, very shocking. It was about a year later that I was sleeping on my mom's basement in her rec room, and I did this, because I'm 16 years old. I'm coping with grief. I don't really know how to deal with it. So how do I deal with it? I sneak out with my friends and I smoke weed. And that's what I was doing at a young age. I'm going out and I'm coping my own way. Now, mind you, I don't do any of that type of substances now, and I'm not against it in any way because obviously it's legal in Canada. It's a plant medicine. But back in the day, my mom, if she was to find out, she probably would kill me too and put me in the grave with my father, for God's sakes. And she even thinks like that today sometimes, which is so weird. So I would sneak out and around 2 o'clock and I'd sneak back in the house and she wouldn't know. And for years, not for years, for some time after my father passed out, this is what I was doing with my friends and such. And so I snuck back in, I slept on the couch, and I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning. And when I woke up, it was kind of odd because I've had experiences when I was younger where I would have out of body experiences. And when I was younger, I could actually literally fly around my neighborhood, and I would, it was really kind of cool. But as I got older, I lost my ability to kind of do that. And it became what I call more earthbound. And I even lost my ability to fly. And I remember growing up, running down my hill out in Elmsdale, Nova Scotia in Canada, flapping my arms in my dreams, hoping that I was going to get some airtime. And I couldn't. It was like I would lift up and just kind of sink right back down to the earth.
Yeah.
So my reality was changing as I grew. Now, it was having an experience like this again, except this time I got up off the couch, but I could still see myself sleeping on the couch. And what woke me was this ball of light at the end of my mom's rec room. And it was like about the size of a baseball to a basketball. And it was like just pure white light. And it grew and it started getting larger. And I thought, okay, well, maybe what's happening is I've died and I'm leaving my life. That's what I thought for a moment. And this ball of light grew and grew and grew and grew. And then after a few moments, it got to about the size of a person. And then out walked my father out of the light. Now, my father was wearing, now get this, and it's something he would never be caught dead wearing, honestly, was a long white robe. Now, my dad hunted, smoked, and, literally, it's not something I ever thought my dad would be wearing. And that was the first thing that I noticed about my father, other than the fact that he's still alive, that I was like, oh my God, what the hell are you wearing? He goes, don't worry, Shawn, you'll get used to this. And we all do. And I was like, okay, this is weird. But so then I quickly switched to anger because I was angry with my father. And the reason why I was angry is because I couldn't resuscitate him. I swore at him and I knew he was there. And I felt somehow he wasn't listening to me and he wouldn't get back in his body. But he knew it. And I didn't really have to say anything. It was like he instantly knew what I was thinking. And so he said, just calm down, Shawn. I've only come here for a few minutes and I got a few messages to give you. And you got to remember these messages. Can you promise me that you'll remember this? I'm like, yeah, sure, I will. And as he's talking to me, I become fixated on the light that is behind him. And I could feel that is home. I could feel that is where we all have come from. Irrelevant of faith, religion, or things that you've done or think that you've done wrong, I knew this place was an unconditional loving space and light. And he then told me, you got to tell your mom I'm okay. You got to tell your brother I'm okay. And I'm like, promise me that you remember this. I'm like, sure. I mean, even though he's talking to me, I'm really not listening because I'm so fixated on the light. And I tried to walk past him to get into it. And he says, Shawn, you can't come here. And I said, no, I'm just going to go check it out for a few minutes. I'll be right back. And I knew I was lying because I knew if I could get out of here, there's no way you're getting me back because this is some type of fake reality that I signed up for. And, somehow I'm in it. But now I have an opportunity to leave. I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
And my dad goes, no, you can't leave. He says, you have a purpose for being here. There's a reason for you being here. I'm like, okay. And he goes, long before you or I were born, we had made this plan that I would leave your life at this point in your life. And I'm thinking, like, who in their right mind would make such a stupid plan to have somebody die and leave your life? That doesn't make sense to me. And even though he's saying it seemed like gibberish, and I tried to walk past him again. And he goes, no, you can't go. Because if you go, you're not going to come back. I'm like, no, I'll come back. And I was lying because I knew it. And he says, again, you have a purpose for being here. Then he showed me what it would look like for my mom if I left. And I get to see her grief and feel all of her pain that she would struggle through if I was to leave her life. And after my mom, because it'd be about 3 years of her kind of really struggling with my father, and it'd be another 7 years of her kind of suffering with the loss of me on top of that. So it'd be almost like 7 to 10 years of grief that she would struggle through, and it would be heavy. And I felt everything that she would feel. And then he showed me what it would look like for my brother if I was to leave. And I felt his pain. Now his pain would be, he would, heal from grief much differently than my mom, and it wouldn't be as ongoing as long as, but it would still affect his life. And no matter what I felt about my mom, I still told my dad, I said, well, I'm still going to go, because even if she suffers, no matter how much grief and pain she goes through, in the end, I mean, she's just going to come home to us anyway. She's going to be okay on the other side of this. So she can suffer a long time, but she'll be fine, because, there's nothing that is going to hurt her in the overall scheme of things. She's going to be home with us. She'll be just fine. And my dad says, you're missing the point. This is not her purpose either. She has a different path and plan, and you have a different one. You're meant to be here. And he says, you don't remember it. And one day this will make sense to you, Shawn, but one day you're going to be telling people about where we go, where we come from, and their purposes for being here, and understanding this connection. I'm like, this sounds stupid. That's what I was thinking. I was like, this seems so stupid. Why the hell would I sign up for something like this? This is ridiculous. All I thought about at that time point in my life, though, was guitars and girls. I mean, what else was I going to think about at 16 years old, right?
Correct.
So he touched me on the forehead, and I woke up on my couch, and I was like, oh my God, I had the most profound visitation with my father. I got to see the spirit world. I got to see the light. And it was like, even though it was like I could remember the light in some way. It was like within me, but I never remembered it was there. It was always there. And I'd forgotten that it was there. And there was this kind of like reconnection to something greater than myself that I'm aligned with, that I didn't know. And I mean, you could call that heaven, the spirit world, the other side. I don't think there's any proper right word, and I don't think there's any wrong word, because I feel it's all encompassing. There's nothing that it is, and there's nothing that it isn't. It's everything.
Yeah.
It's just, there's nothing that it cannot be within the universe. And I can see the world so differently because of it all. And as part of my culture as well, as I've learned, as I've grown, that we have a word in Mi'kmaq and it's actually in all Indigenous languages, just it's pronounced a little bit differently because of our language, but we say, in Mi'kmaq, we say Emsit Nogama, which means all of my relations. Means, and there's a whole big reason for this, is because as Indigenous people, we recognize the connection of all things, whether it's the animal nation, the plant nation, the mineral nation, the human nation, Mother Earth, grandfather sky, and grandfather sun and grandmother moon. There's no separation in the energy between us all, and there's a divine purpose and synchronicity to all of it, and it's all aligned in its own way for a reason. And so it really opened my eyes to who I was. Does it mean that I start running out thinking that I have to help people? No. I went on about my life thinking about girls and guitars and trying to get a job and doing other things. And, that's where, when spirit has a plan or purpose for us, even though you think that you think this is gibberish, it unfolds. Even if you don't expect it, it will unfold. And that's how my life has kind of transpired, is like with Spirit Talk of the book, it kind of like tells you the story of the unfolding of that experience. That, and I don't think it's unique to me either, because I think my stories are unique to me, but there's an unfolding within all of us in our lives. And I think when people read Spirit Talk, or they think about their own experiences, they think about themselves, and they think about, these synchronicities that have happened to them. And then it helps them understand their own experiences maybe a little bit greater, and maybe shifts their life in such a way that they start to experience more things. And I think that's great, because that's why you write a book. It's not to be enriched in some way while you write a book is to shift the consciousness of the world and help people to have similar experiences to yours, because I feel like my life has been a gift, even the shittiest stuff that you can imagine. It's a
Yeah.
gift. And,
Mm.
through learning and maybe some of these things I've been resistant to in life, whether the loss of my father, loss of a marriage, or what have you. It's, there's a reason for everything that is unfolding and where I am today. And, obviously my father saw something when I was 16 years old, and that he knew that there's no way I could have known, because
Mm.
he had seen maybe the overarching purpose for my life and what was meant to unfold through me. If I was to, whether I embraced it or not, it was going to unfold through me, and that's where I am today in that way.
Sean, can I just ask?
Sure.
You've just shared with the listeners the passing of your father and the spiritual experiences you had from that. Uh, what was the journey like from you from that point, and for you recognizing that you were a spirit talker as such?
Right. I mean,
How did that
again,
evolve?
I didn't embrace it thinking, okay, well, I got to be a psychic medium. I'm not thinking, okay, well, I got to be like a psychic medium. I got to write a book. I got a TV show. Nothing like that. It was like farthest thing from my mind. But I tell you what shifted in my life was I, in a very young age, a sequence of events sent me to Calgary, Alberta, which is another province within Canada. And again, still playing guitar, getting a job, eventually met a girl, got married, had a couple kids, a couple girls, Mackenzie and Sienna, who I love very much. And so anyway, when my wife, or my ex-wife now, was pregnant with my first child, I was working fairly hard at an office furniture manufacturing company, and I decided to go get my health checked out just because of what happened to my dad at 42 years old. So I thought, well, maybe I'm going to be a father in my early 20s. Maybe I should just go get checked out to make sure I'm okay. So I go to the doctor and they check my health overall. I was smoking then, and even though I was working very hard, I still didn't eat very good. And when I went, the doctor said she wanted to see me right away. So I go in and I see the doctor, and she says, Shawn, your cholesterol is massively high. I'm like, it is? She goes, yes. She goes, like, what are you eating? Or do you smoke? And I'm like, yes, I smoke. And she goes, you have to drastically change your life. You won't make it to 42 if you keep going the way you're going. I'm thinking about you on heart pills today, just to get your cholesterol lower. Because if you don't, you won't survive to 42. I'm like, so it scared me so bad. So she goes, I'm going to give you a month to kind of sort your stuff out. And then we're going to test your cholesterol again. And if it hasn't gotten any better, you're going on heart pills. So within about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, I managed to quit smoking. And I started to exercise more. I started to go to the gym, and I took my health very seriously. I read some books, got some knowledge on lowering your cholesterol, etc. But not only that, I start to think about, who I am in the big picture. So I start to walk a more spiritual life
Mm.
in my 20s. And again, if you're going to be balanced in life, I think, to be balanced, it has to be mind, body, and spirit. And I realized that I was disconnected, and maybe the loss of my father kind of made me disconnect from it, but I started to embrace it more. So on top of like eating better and stopping smoking and exercising, I started to pray and meditate. And I wasn't like saying, okay, our Father, Hail Mary. I wasn't doing like things like that. I started to have like personal words, let's call them. You can call them prayers, you can call them words, it's up to you. But I start to have little conversations with the spirit world, not just my father, but the creator, Mother Earth. I started to talk to the tree spirits, and different things. It's part of who I am in my culture. So I started to kind of embrace that more. I started to meditate more. And when I started to kind of find, because I was like very stressed a lot, and that's why I smoked and take care of myself. So I started to make space in my life for meditation, and then I started to learn about visualized meditations, and start doing really good visualized meditation. I became very connected to wanting to understand who my spirit guide was and things like this. And as I learned about stuff like that. So as I started to go down this road, things started to align. Because I mean, I started asking for help in one case, and then that person would show up, and I'm like, okay, that's weird, you know. So obviously it was like I felt like I was being heard. So it kind of reinforced my words and reinforced my spiritual practice. And I'll tell you a story, a little bit about this because I like to tell stories. Because back in the day, when I started doing this work, because I was really kind of resistant to doing it in the first place, but I started to realize again clearly that I was being heard. And one day I was working on my computer and I had a very rudimentary website because, this is like when internet just started out. I mean, there was no Facebook, there was nothing like this back in the day. And I even remember when you had you had to have a program to check your email. You had to enter all your stuff in like a pop server stuff. And so even to get your email, and I had this program and it was called Microsoft Front Page 2003. And I got it that year from a friend I worked with named Conrad. And Conrad was a good guy. And I was now, mind you, even though I'm down the spiritual practice and I started to kind of open up more, I started to get out there. I started to embrace this kind of journey. And because of like so many other reasons that I started to embrace it. But so anyway, I got this program from Conrad, which allowed me to create a website. And so, I got my domain, which I still have today. And, and you had to set it up and you had to have a program to even put your web page in. It was called, so I used Microsoft Front Page 2003. And then one day I got up, and this is when computers were very crappy. They didn't last very long. I think they made them that way. But anyway, they didn't last long. So I got up and my computer was glitchy, right? It was glitchy. And I was like, okay, there's something wrong with my computer. So I told my wife then, I said, listen, I need to go buy a new computer because this is, I'm just starting this business of getting out there, doing this work. I think I really need to get a better computer. And I've always been eyeballing because everybody wants new techie stuff, right? But so I have now an excuse. And she goes, no, we can't afford a freaking computer. And I'm like, okay. So now this was on Friday. Now, mind you, Saturday, my computer goes black. And I'm like, I told you I needed a new computer. And I was like, and then she goes, okay, go buy the computer. So I run to, the electronics store in Calgary, Alberta, and I buy myself a new computer. And I'm really happy, right? I turned it on. I'm like, oh my God, I got this brand new piece of techie device and it's super fast. To me, back in the day, it was super fast. And then I turn it on and I remember that I borrowed the programs from Conrad that a guy I used to work with. And I was like, oh, okay, what am I going to do? I said, so I priced out Microsoft Front Page 2003. And I tell my wife, I got to go buy this program. Now, back then it was like $697. That's a lot of money for me and my family. I'm not like rich. I'm working really hard. We're just getting by. She's not working because we're raising the children. And she goes, we can't afford, you just bought a new computer. We can't afford this program. I'm like, well, she goes, where did you get it in the first place? Because I know you didn't buy it. She goes, well, I got it from Conrad. She goes, well, get a hold of Conrad. I'm like, okay, great. So I got to find Conrad now because Conrad used to work at my company and he left and started his own business and he does construction. And, this is again before 411 online. I'm in the yellow pages. And if there's any young people there, you probably won't know what the freaking yellow white pages are. But I'm looking through the white pages looking for some guy named Conrad Kardashian and flipping through, and there's none. I'm looking, and I know he lives outside of Calgary, and I don't remember the town that he said he lived in. So I'm looking through all these towns I'm looking through the yellow pages from business that has his name on it somehow, and I couldn't find him. So I said, this is when I just say, creator, I need some help here. My computer went down. You really want me to do this work. I need some help. I need some assistance. I need to get a hold of Conrad. I don't know how you can help me or allow me to win like $700 or something like this. But I need help getting this program so I can effectively have my website and be able to do sessions through. I can't even check my email for God's sakes because I don't have a program. So I need find a way to get Conrad and ask my guides, I ask my angels, I ask the creator, and I just let it go. Now that was Saturday. And so I decided to give up. and I was working on my gate on my house because we bought a new house in Calgary and it was just built. So I had to put a gate around it. And I realized that I can't hang the gates by myself because there's like two swinging gates, right? That you get in, like to get in the yard. So I called my brother James and I said, James, can you come out on Sunday and help me hang these? And he says, well, I'm going to drinking with the boys tonight, but I'm like, well, just see if you can show up because I really need your help. And I can't like hold these and put the hinges in and do all this. And just, can you be there for 10 a.m.? He goes, well, I'll be there. So at 10 a.m., I'm outside waiting, looking at my watch, 10:15, 10:20. I'm like, I'm calling my brother. There's no answer. I'm like, oh crap, he's not coming. So I start wedging 2x4s underneath my thing, and I'm hanging it there. I'm marking the spots for the hinges. I drilled the holes and I start putting it in there, and I get one gate on and I latch, and it was like, okay, and now I just have to do this on the other side. Then somebody pulls up in front of my house and goes beep, beep. And I turn around and it's Conrad. And he goes, excuse me, sir, I need help. I'm looking for this address. Can you give me directions? And I'm like, Conrad, what the hell are you doing here? And I was like, oh my God. I said, and he goes, oh, Shawn, how you doing? I haven't seen you in so long. I didn't know you lived up this way. And I said, what are you doing here? And he goes, I just got a call this morning about puppies in this neighborhood, and I'm trying to find this address. Can you tell me where this person lives? Because I'm going to go pick up a new puppy. I'm like, oh my God. I said, this is so amazing. I said, do you remember that program? I said, I'll tell you what the address is. And I said, if anybody ever says you've been guided by a bad source, don't listen to them. You're obviously being guided by good people. And I said, I don't know how it all lined up, but man, you're standing in front of my house. Now I thought about it too. Like my brother had not to show up. You know, I had to be outside. I had to be in my front yard. I had so many things had to happen to allow that connection to happen the very next day. Now, Calgary's 1 million+ people. And if you go on the outsides, it's probably like 1.5 million people. Like for me to be in the city and for him to show up in front of my house and me to be outside at that space, like, I mean, how does that all kind of happen? And so he says, I'm coming in town tomorrow for a work site. I can bring the program in for you. I'm like, amazing. So I get the program and I have my web page back. I have access to my email again. And so this is just like a story that I shared in the book. It's just a circumstance of like, you know, when you really start to speak from your heart with the spirit world, know that you're being heard. I mean, maybe things don't align up the very next day for everybody. Sometimes it takes time for things to align just in the right space and place and all things to kind of happen in the way they meant to. I mean, even when I self-published my first book, you know, it took like 4 years for to be picked up by Haos. And again, I never looked for an agent, never found how am I going to make this happen. It just that when you follow your path and you're doing what you need to be in life, some things just align. And when they do, I mean, you just have to be available. You have to show up. You have to be there. And that's how my life has kind of been. And it's just been amazing. And I've had so many things like that happen to me, one after another. And I think when you're following your purpose, when you're really doing what you're supposed to be doing in life, spirit will show up to say, hey, I'm with you. I'm supporting you. I'm helping you. It may not be the very next day in some circumstance, but they will come through. And to go back to even when I started to realize that I had these intuitions, it's kind of a funny story because I'm going backwards here now. But, you know, when spirit gets me on a tangent, I can't stop. So I just go.
Go for it. Keep going.
Go, Shawn, go.
Apparently, I'm going to tell this story for whatever
We'll just
reason.
have a cup of coffee while we're...
Because it's like, even though you ask me a question, spirit goes, no, you're going to tell him about this. I'm like, okay, apparently I got to tell him the story about Conrad for whatever reason. So that's
love
what my mind's like. And that's what mediumship is a little bit like, because sometimes you're being a medium, you don't even realize you're being a medium. Your
That's
spirit
right.
guides you and you don't even know you're being guided. And that's the experience for most people. It's when you start to become more consciously aware that you're being guided in life, that you start to see these things kind of line up in your brain, or you need to just go talk to that person at the right time, right?
Yes.
But when I first started the spiritual experience, right, and started to become more intuitive and such, It's because of my spiritual work, my physical taking care of my body, my mental work of meditation, etc. It's a mind, body, spirit. It's the connection that strengthened me to kind of, let's say, raise my energy in such a way that allow me to make connections that I didn't realize I was doing. And I remember my wife then, my ex-wife now, she worked at a place called Montana's, although it's different in the book, and I made it out to be a man, and it's not, because I had to change the story in the book because I said it was my best friend that worked at a coffee shop or something. You do stuff like that with books, but the essence of the story is still the same. But I went to Montana is where she worked. And, because I had to go pick her up, and this is like just our children are very young and such like this. So as I went to pick her up and I'm sitting there in the restaurant, for whatever reason, I started to become more sensitive to people. And again, that vibe, that aura that people have, that when you know what it's like to be vacant of a spirit in a body, but now I get to feel people a little bit more greater in relation to when I meet them. So, I mean, and everybody's had this experience too. I know you have. That some people you meet, you can just tell there's something off. They may not be telling you the truth, or they may not be saying really what's on their mind or their heart, but you can tell that there's something that's within them that they think they've got hidden from you. But you can tell that there's something going on with this person, right? And it's the same, except I would go to my ex-wife's work and I look at a few people for fun because I'm sitting there for like an hour waiting for her, and I always go early because I get free food. So I would say, okay, that guy kind of looks like he's a drug dealer. Maybe he's like dealing some marijuana or something on the side. I don't know, but I feel like he's obviously like he smells like weed, but I feel like there's more to this, and I just feel like he's a drug dealer. And then somebody else would walk by, and I'm like, man, I would not trust that guy working the till at all because I just feel like he's not trustworthy. And then I saw this man and woman that were working in the bar area, and they didn't look at each other, but I could almost feel like they weren't looking at each other on purpose. And I said, there's something here. Now, either they don't like each other or they really like each other and they're trying to let people know. And I think it's probably the latter. So I bet you they're like sleeping together or something like this. And home, and we're driving in the car, and I'm driving my ex-wife home, and I said, listen, I said, what do you think about these people? And she goes, well, I don't know. She goes, you're a little judgmental of people, I believe. And I'm like, no, it's just a vibe. I'm not, I mean, I don't have to be right. This is just what I think. What do you know these people? So tell me what you know. And she goes, well, that guy, we never steal money. His father's a freaking minister. He's not going to be like a thief. And I know that guy smokes a bit of weed, but he's never talked about selling drugs in any way. And those people are married to other people. I'm like, okay. I said, it's just a thought, and I must be wrong. Because you don't really know certain things. You just get a vibe, right? So it was probably a week, maybe a week and a bit later, I go to pick her up again. And this time I didn't go in for food. So she comes out to the car and she goes, you're not going to guess what the freak happened today. She goes, the cops came and arrested the guy for dealing drugs. The guy got fired for stealing money, and I caught those two people kissing in the kitchen. She goes, how the hell did you know this? And I'm like, I didn't really know. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's just, these are just thoughts, like just vibes, like the people have. She goes, that's not normal. That's not normal. People don't just know stuff about people like that. I've been working with these people for years, and I've not thought any of that with any of them. How did you know this? I'm like, I just don't know. I just like, let's call it, ever since I started the spiritual journey, I started to become a little bit more heightened in my awareness, my sensitivity, or my perception of people just became a little bit different. So you can call that psychic ability, right? Because that's what psychic ability really is that you tune into people's vibes. And sometimes when you tune into things, you guide them in life based on the vibes that you pick up or you receive about them. And you try to give them guidance in life. I mean, that's still their life. They still make choices. But you say, listen, I feel this about you. I sense this. I see this, and you try to guide them accordingly. So she told a person that she worked with named Jen Syme, who was a waitress and very spiritual, about what I had said. And anyway, Jen wanted to come see me because she thought I might have some gifts or abilities, and I just don't really know it. I'm like, okay. So anyway, my wife comes home. Guess what? Jen's coming over on Sunday. We're having dinner, and after dinner, you're going to read her. I'm like, pardon me? Like, what do you mean I'm going to read her? She goes, yeah, you're going to tune into her and just see, whatever you see about her, just tell her she's very interested in you because I told her about what had happened. She can't believe it. And she thinks that you're psychic and you just don't know it. And she wants to meet you. And I'm like, okay, whatever. This is weird, but sure. So Jen comes over, we have dinner and we sit down, and Jen is going, so, I know this is new for you, but just tell me what you feel about me. And she's trying to kind of coax me into like seeing what I can vibe about her. I'm like, well, Jen, and she goes, there's a person I want to talk to that I've lost too, and I'm hoping that you might be able to do that. I'm like, pretty sure I can't, but she goes, just try, just try. So she gave me permission to try. So I'm like, okay, Jen, I said, like, this is kind of weird, but for whatever reason, and you don't know a guy named Dale, do you? She goes, I do know Dale. I just met Dale. We're dating. I'm like, oh, well, I think Dale's a pretty good guy. And then I started to kind of like kind of imagine that, for whatever reason, they're going to start traveling. And I'm like, well, I think you're going to travel. And for whatever reason, I'm like, like, is this connected to pets somehow? And she goes, oh my God, we just talked about this. We thought it'd be a really good business idea if we went and looked after people's homes wherever they live and the care for their pets while they're away. So we could stay on vacation, go wherever we want, and look after their pets and homes. Like, okay, that's really weird. And I'm thinking that I must be like somehow like mind reading somehow, right? And then I said, I see you writing a book, and she goes, I started to write a book, and she actually has published a few books now. One of them is called The Masses Are Asses. And it's about serving people at restaurants, for God's sake. And it's a comedy, like a funny book.
Yeah.
So, she goes, okay, now I really want to talk to somebody. I'm just like, Jen, I mean, I really can't do this, honest to God. I'm like, I'm sure you have a grandmom with you or something like this. And she goes, I do have a grandmom pass. I'm like, well, that was easy. And she goes, no, there's someone else I want to talk to. And I'm like, well, I don't really know what I'm doing, Jen. She goes, try. She goes, I think you're better than you know you are. So I started to kind of like focus, like I'm something's going to happen, I'm not expecting anything, but I'm sitting there kind of with my mind blank, like I do in meditation, hoping something's going to come into my awareness. And then I saw something. And I saw a young man who looked about 15 or 16. And he was wearing a baseball uniform, and he had a baseball in his hand, and he was standing beside a shed, and he was bouncing this ball up and down. And I'm like, okay, Jen, I'm sure this is nothing, but it might mean something, and I'm not sure, and I'm really reluctant to tell you. She goes, just freaking tell me. So I told her, and she started to cry. And I'm like, okay, this obviously makes sense to you somehow. I said, you're going to have to tell me because I have no freaking idea what this means. She goes, that's who I was hoping you'd connect. That was my best friend growing up in high school. One night after a baseball game, he went home and he killed himself in the shed. And I've always wanted to know if he's okay. And I've been trying to connect to him for years. And she's crying. And I'm like, is he okay? Could you have a message for him? And I'm like, and I didn't hear anything. But what I felt was a sense of peace. I said, I feel like he's at peace. Like I feel he's okay. And I don't know how to answer this, to be honest, but I feel like he's okay. I don't even know where this came from, but it came to me, and she hugged me and thanked me, and she left, and I'm thinking, how did this just transpire? Like, how did this just happen? And I was very skeptical, to be honest, because I'm thinking like, this is like, I'm like a mind reader. This is what this is. I'm like some person who's able to like get into people's heads somehow, and I don't know how I'm doing it, but I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And so anyway, she goes and tells other waitresses. Next, I've got people call me every other day to come see me, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And so I decided to want to explore this further to see what this really is. Am I a mind reader? Or is this real? And so I did that. I started to see people and different waitresses. Next, I'm booked for like 3 months, for God's sakes. And I'm charging like $40 a reading or something like this. And I'm like, and I thought that I was overcharging people. I was like, this is crazy. Like I can't be charging people money for this. And I was very conflicted. And, as things progressed, more and more stuff started to happen. I started to have experiences and, that, things that they didn't know. And then I really had to kind of rethink this. I mean, how is this possible that I know something they don't know? Because if it's not in their head, how am I supposed to know it? Like, where's this coming from? And it really like intrigued me so much. I just had to keep doing it. And there was one moment that shifted my life.
Yeah.
And it was like after that point, there was no way you could stop me from doing readings.
Yeah.
It was a young man that I worked with named Orhan at work. And we were, he's a skeptical Muslim guy. We play sports together. And I told him about what was going on with me. And, he's a guy. So he's just castling the shit out of me too, But, he's just giving me a hard time, bugging me about this and that every other day. So I felt so stupid for telling him anything because I shouldn't have said anything because I just set myself up for this ridicule. And, he'd come in and ask me what the lottery numbers were every other freaking day. And, just fast. And then one day I'm sitting there and this is where, because I'm still doing my spiritual work, my prayer meditation, really doing a lot of meditation every day. And I think it had a lot to do with it because other than just, speaking with spirit and realizing that I'm being heard, I'm really retraining and rewiring my brain to see again, to be receptive enough to listen, to create space so that things can come in.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes things come in when you don't expect them to. And that doesn't happen very often because I don't run around Walmart or Costco here in Canada thinking, okay, I got to read somebody in aisle 4 or something like this, but sometimes it happens and I don't know, it just pops into my head and I have to say something. And it was like this with Oran because I'm typing on my computer,
Yeah.
and I'm in that zone, let's say. And then boom, I get a flash. And I start to hear a name over and over and over again in my head. And it was like on a broken record. And it just said Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. And I'm like, oh God, the hell's going on? Then I looked at Orion and I thought, okay, well, Orion's got to be doing something with Charlie on the weekend, and this is what this is, right? So at Orion, I said, I got a weird question for you, and I know you're going to hassle the shit on me, but let's just do this anyway. Do you know a guy named Charlie? He goes, I used to know a guy named Charlie. And I said, okay, well, obviously this guy's gone or something happened to him. As soon as he said that, it's like a picture popped in my head. And it was a bar sign. And it was the Town and Country bar sign in Calgary, Alberta. And it was just a T and C, like T and C. And I went, I'm like, oh, that's so weird. Why the hell would I see the Town and Country bar sign? He goes, what did you say? I said, I just sounded the Town and Country bar sign in my mind because that's the last place Charlie was seen alive. I'm like, really? And then as soon as he said that, I start to see a house. I start to see a thatch roof, and it was a backside entrance to a house. And I start to see stairs going into the house. I saw him walking down. I felt like blunt force trauma to my head. I saw 4 people, and I was like, and then I explained to him. I said, so why am I seeing this house with this little roof? With an outside back entrance, and it goes down to this basement like apartment thing. And he's like, I don't know. I don't know anything about that. And he goes, like, how the hell did you know about Charlie and like, who told you this? He flips out at me, right? And I'm like, nobody told me this, Orion. I'm literally like, I don't, I didn't even know anything about the Town and Country until you said you knew him. And it was some guy that passed away. I said, how do you know this guy? He goes, well, I worked with him at the airport 8 years ago. And, when I was away in Bosnia, I heard that he had died. I'm like, so you worked with this guy at the airport 8 years ago, and he says his name's not even Charlie, it's a Chari. We just nicknamed him Charlie. And I'm like, I said, how the hell do you think I know who this guy is? I didn't even know you worked at the airport 8 years ago, let alone there was some guy named Achari that you nicknamed Charlie, and you were in Bosnia. How am I supposed to put all this together? Like, how do you think this came to me? Like, you tell somebody around us this whole story about all this? He's like, no. Well, how do you think I know? Because I don't know. But he says, Shawn, this is not cool. This is not cool. And you shouldn't be doing this to people. And he says, this is not, it freaked him out so bad. And to me, I'm like, I don't know what's happening, to be honest. So we dropped it. And then some time went by. And for whatever reason, because in Canada, we're big hockey fans, right?
Yes.
So I would pick up the Calgary Sun paper and read the paper because why I read the papers, because I was looking at the hockey scores. So I was wondering how the Flames did the night before, the Calgary Flames. So I'm flipping through the paper, looking for the scores. And then there's a half-page article about an unsolved murder of a guy named Achari, nicknamed Charlie, found at this house in the southeast part of Calgary. He was last seen at the Town and Country bar. So I'm reading this whole story and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is him. This is the guy. And it's unsolved. And the thing about the house, they even had a picture of the thatch roof, the little house on the article, and saying where that he died and where he was found murdered. And they were looking for information. So Orion comes in, I put the paper down in front of him. Said, tell me about this, Orion. Like, what do you know about this? Like, I mean, he goes, what are you trying to say? I didn't murder him. I was in Bosnia. I'm like, I'm not trying to say you murdered him. I said, I need to know something and I need to know the truth. And it has nothing to do with if you're involved or not involved. Did you know anything about this house and the thatch roof and the backyard and all this? No, I didn't know. I said, you got to swear in people's lives here. You got to swear in your kid's life, your wife's life. I need to know for sure you didn't know this. And he swore. I would swear in my wife's life. I'll never swear in my kid's life just in case I know and I forgot, but I don't remember. But definitely, I did not know. He said, will you stop hassling me? I'm like, I will. He goes, why is this so important to you? I said, it's important to be aware because there's a lot of stuff happening to me. And I'm not sure if I'm a mind reader, but I remember the day that I connected to your friend Charlie, and it felt like a real person was telling me a story. But if there's an aspect of the story that you don't know, it can't be in your head. It can't be coming from you. It has to be coming from somewhere else and someone else. Someone that knows, that's seen it and experienced it somehow. And if you weren't in the country, then there's no reason, there's no possibility this could be connected to you. And if you didn't know it, it can't be coming from your mind. Because this, he says, I still don't understand what you're saying. I'm like, what I'm saying is I'm not reading your freaking mind. And it was a moment that changed me because I realized then, and then I was all in all the way. I was like, okay, this is real. This is not like my imagination. This is not me mind reading people. This is like literally real. And people are telling me stories. And it was just, I just dove in. I dove in all the way and just like, I want to go deeper and understand this more. And I was just like, because I was kind of dabbling and exploring and I wasn't sure. And then after that, I was like, this is why I wrote my first book. I called it The Language of Spirit. I mean, it's no longer for sale, mind you, because that's why a Spirit Talker wrote. But I felt that moment in that day from the time that I was learning, I discovered a language of communication from the spirit world. And today, I mean, maybe there's fancy words that people may know that are your audience. Could be clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, claircognizance, right?
Yeah.
Clairalience, clairambience, different clairs. I didn't have words for these things, but yet I was having the experience of these things. And as I started to kind of grow in my understanding and develop, because there's a development phase of understanding this language. It's like learning any language, the more that you practice, the more fluid you become, the more you understand how spirit communicates, whether it's figurative or literal, or what they're saying and why they're saying certain things, or why they show me certain things in a certain way to help me understand something. And it's just amazing. And I know because of my experience, and I'm not special. I'm not. I've just really worked at something and I've gave my whole heart to it and I've stepped into it. It's something in all of us. It's something that's uniquely within all of us that we have this connection. I remember, and I think about, my father, what he said. I'm like, freaking hell, how the hell did he know that I would be doing this?
Yeah.
How did he know that I would be like stepping into this? Obviously there had to be a purpose for my life, but I think there's a purpose for all of our lives to
Oh,
remember who we are, to reconnect with
absolutely.
you. And
I have a
whether you become
question.
a psychic medium on a stage or an author or a TV show, I mean, that's independently up to you, really. But I think remembering who you are and having that connection and have that experience of connection through your life, I think it's something that we're all meant to share.
Absolutely. I am curious, Shawn. Did you
Yeah,
train with somebody after, or were you spirit trained?
I
Like,
was spirit trained only.
okay.
Everything was taught to me by spirit.
Yeah.
And it's because I started to really trust and work with and understand how this language would express itself through me. And I still learn. Like I don't think you'll ever stop learning.
Yeah.
Have I learned about words? Yeah, I have. Have I
Yeah.
learned about concepts of what these things are? Yes. But how it's expressed through me is not something I could learn in a book. It's something that I can only describe through experience. And that's how I've learned to experience it and how it still kind of unfolds for me.
Oh, beautiful. I know we have just a few more minutes left, but I
Yeah.
want to ask you about your deck
Oh, yes.
because the pictures are beautiful. What inspired you to create this deck?
Okay. Well, everything is a story. My life is like a weird.
Do you have time, Shawn? Do you
Oh,
have
I do,
time?
absolutely. I'll tell you the story. I
Okay.
mean, all the artwork in the deck is by a lady named Tracy Metallic. And
Okay.
Erin Gugu, who is a graphic artist, is also Mi'kmaq because she's Mi'kmaq and he's Mi'kmaq. So when Heos signed me for the book deal, at the same time they said, Shawn, have you ever thought about doing an Oracle card deck? I'm like, funny that you should mention that because I had.
Good.
And I did the pilot episode of Spirit Talker was in Listigouche, Quebec, because I eventually, how my life all is aligned, I eventually got a TV show. And Spirit Talker, and we filmed the pilot to see if it was going to be picked up. We went to this community called in Listigouche, Quebec, on the New Brunswick-Quebec border, and I did a live audience session. And then the producer picks some of those people from the audience and go, okay, we're going to highlight this person, we're going to highlight this person, and you're going to do a one-on-one session with these people. And I'm like, okay, it's okay. So this is the show. I'm going to do live audience readings, and then they'll pick some people from the people that I've read, and I'll do one-on-ones. And they film them both. So I was doing this reading with a lady named Tracy Metallic. And I during the reading, I started to see art and things in relation to art. And I said, Tracy, I said, and then she showed me some of her art. And I said, this is so amazing. I love your artwork. Is there any way that one day, if I get the opportunity to create an Oracle deck, because I don't know if I ever will, but if I do, would you be interested in doing the art? And she said, oh, Shawn, I would absolutely love to. And that was one of her original pieces that she showed me in that picture right there. Grandfather, Son, Sacred Fire.
Oh, beautiful.
And she called it something else, mind you. But I'm like, I love this picture she showed me, and she gifted it to me. So here, when I got picked up with AOS, and they go, Shawn, have you ever thought about doing an Oracle card deck? I said, funny that you should mention that. I have. And she goes, and so anyway, they wanted to set me up with their own artist. And I'm like, no, that's not the vision I had for my Oracle card deck. I said, I'm an Indigenous person, I'm a Mi'kmaq, and I don't, no offense, I don't want to have some person who is non-Indigenous to do my art. I would definitely want it to be as authentic as possible to represent my culture and who I am as a person. And they go, well, we don't normally do that. I'm like, well, then I'm not that interested in it. I'm only interested. And they go, well, we're not saying no, but can you get your artist to send us some 4 pictures that would be fit to the card? And if we like it, because we normally don't take pay, because these are all painted. They're all like hand painted.
This one is you, correct?
It is. It's like me and my aura. Yes, my blue aura.
Beautiful.
So I mean, some of these she created based on things that we brainstormed, but some of these were already existing art pieces that she had, like the wolf and the bear, etc. And so they sent in the 4 pieces, and they said, we're going to allow Tracy to do your art for you. So we worked on it and went back and forth. She submitted her art. That's another piece that she originally had, but I added the heart to it and added Sacred Fire to it. And because she had another one, it was called something else with her hands out, but we altered a little bit to kind of make it work for the card and to represent the heart Sacred Fire. And so, I mean, it worked out really well, and I'm really proud of the deck, and it's something unique and special in the world that, that I don't think has been done in this way before, especially with, the influence of Mi'kmaq heritage and culture and spiritual teachings. So it's something that I really wanted to share with the world. And again, you put things out into the world, you just don't know how they may manifest, right? So sometimes it might not be, because it's, like this is like when I filmed the pilot episode, it's probably like 6 years ago, right? And I
Yeah.
only put this deck out 2 years ago. So it took 4 years to kind of find its way to manifest out into the world. And again, I didn't call an agent. It's like, how can we get me an Oracle card deck? I didn't do any of that. It was just like, here is like this big publishing company going, Shawn, we'd love to see if you could publish an Oracle card deck with us too. I'm like, okay. So it's just like things kind of like that aligned. Even the publishing deal with Hay House.
Yeah.
They called me. I don't know. Like, it's a story around that. Like, I toured with John Holland 9 years ago, 8 years ago. I toured with John Holland. We did 2 events together, and he's a Hayos author.
Yeah.
And he came to Halifax. We did an event here. We did one in New Brunswick, and for whatever reason, we just stayed in contact. He really liked me. We hung out a bit. He was really impressed with my mediumship abilities, and so we just kept in contact. Then he just happened to be walking by an office in Hay House one day, and he overheard a conversation that said, we really need to get some more Indigenous authors. And he backs up. He goes, what did you guys just say? Because I think I heard you say something about Indigenous authors. They go, yeah, we were just talking about bringing a few more Indigenous authors into the Hayos family brand, right? And I'm like, have you heard of Shawn Leonard? He goes, you should look him up. He's got a book published through Balboa Press. I mean, I think it's done fairly well. I don't know how many books he sold, but you should look into him and contact him. And he's got a TV show in Canada, for God's sakes. Next, you know, it's like, really? We've never heard of him.
Yeah.
So I get this call and say, you know, Shawn, I'm the CEO of Hayos, and we'd like to have a meeting with you. I'm like, oh my God, like, how did this happen, right? Again, never got an agent and tried to go through the proper channels to make this all happen in some way. I didn't make anything happen. It's just that, you know, spirit has a plan for us. And when you're living your purpose, I mean, things align in divine time. And that's how it all kind of came together. Next, you know, I signed a book, went out, bestseller within Canada,
Yeah.
and did the Oracle card deck. As soon as it was published, they go, Shawn, it's a bestseller within Canada. Have you thought about writing more books? I'm like, yeah, I have. Could you submit some ideas? I submitted like 7 ideas, and they go, well, we like these two. We like this one. I said, well, that's not my number one. I really want to write about this. And they go, okay, how about we make you a deal? If you write this one for us, which is my next book published, I don't know when it's coming out, but I've already submitted and I've got the artwork done for the cover. It's called Walking with Your Spirit Totem Animals.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
that one's going to be coming out maybe in the fall or maybe around Christmas too. I don't know, because they want to bring it out at the same time. I'm supposed to be recording the audiobook in July, but I'm done writing the whole book, and it's going through the editing phase right now. And my next book is going to be, it's called, this is the one I really wanted to write, was the one, it's called Grandfather's Son and the Seven Directions of Manifestation, which is, I believe that's what it's going to be called. That's what I want it to be called. Whether or not because there's always a discussion around stuff like that. But that's what I want to write about, is
Yeah.
helping people manifest a greater life for themselves and to live the best lives. And, with the help of spirit, of course. And that's what I'm going to be writing about, is that first creation of that first sacred light, which is the sun, the star.
Yeah.
That light, that sacred light that connects everything in the universe is light. And it's not only within the sun and that we circle it within our planet, and in every other solar system, spirals around its own sacred light, even in each galaxy,
Yeah.
that light exists within us too, because we're made from it, physically, mentally, and spiritually. We're made from it. It's expressing itself through us. So that would be my next book that I'm starting to work on very soon. But don't get ahead of myself. Yeah.
I'm super excited. I will say I have met John Holland because he used to come to Toronto with Hay House
Oh yeah.
before COVID. So I met him a few times. So I'm just going to put it out there. I'm going to plant the seed that maybe sometime you and John Holland come to Toronto, because I feel like I miss my Hay House authors.
Well, he's hinting and he wants to tour with me. So he's like, he
Yes.
wants to do it again. But then I got called out, Baron Reed going, Shawn, I want to tour with you too. So it's like,
Oh, I
so
like
I
her
think what
too.
may be really cool if we could set up something like the three of us. Who knows? But
They have come, because I met Colette Baron Reed a few times because she did fundraisers here in Toronto, because she was originally from Toronto, and she
yes.
did, like, I think it was for the SPCA or something a
Yeah.
few years ago, and she was doing readings at a local church and doing a fundraiser for that organization.
Yeah.
So I gone with a friend for the fundraiser. But yes, yeah, you three should get together and come to
We
Toronto.
might.
Put
We
it on
might
your
work it
travel
out.
list.
I'm so busy, and I'm sure they're busy too. And I mean, they're both amazing humans that are very engaged in out in the world, serving people in their own unique ways. And I love them both because they're very genuine. They're very like, because you meet a
Yeah,
lot of people. Not everybody's genuine, but these people are
yeah.
really good hearts and are very genuine, and they're out there serving people. So I appreciate them and the work they're doing. And and I love the fact that they want to do things with me. So I'm sure we'll work it out one day, but I mean, this is where I don't chase things down. It just, when it's meant to
Yeah.
kind of like unfold, it will, right? And maybe in the next few years we'll make it happen.
Put Toronto on your stop as you're going through Canada,
Definitely,
and
definitely.
Ada.
I'm Sean. I'm absolutely fascinated with the hours going really quickly. It literally felt like 10 minutes. You're the most fabulous storyteller. I just have to ask before we wind up, your Indigenous background, is that somehow part of the storytelling?
It
This
is. Well, it's
way
part
of
of my culture.
walking
It's
the
part of who I
life and
it's
yeah.
it's part of my genetics, and I think as an Indigenous person in how we teach in all of our culture is through stories. And I think,
Mm,
when people, you're trying to help people understand a concept about something, I think it's really important that you share your story, your
mm,
personal story, your understanding of this aspect of whatever it is in life. But we all have our own stories, and I think what better way to teach people than and it's easy to remember because you've experienced these things, right? And
true.
it's part of who you are. It's part of your life. And I think there's just so amazing each of these experiences that I've had that sharing them in this way through a book, through the different stories, and I think it's awesome. And I think people that's why I feel like it was a bestseller in Canada is because people connect to it. And
Mm,
it's my story, but I think some of these stories also connect to so many other people. And it's because they've
mm,
had similar things or have had similar experiences. And we're all one. And I
mm,
think spirit's not only trying to express itself through me, but it's trying to express itself through you too.
mm. And I must say, Sean, you're very relatable, and I think that's the gift of the stories that you tell, that connectivity, to the human experience. It's just been lovely to listen to. It was less of an interview and more of a sitting in Sean doing his own thing and letting spirit move his mind,
That's
which is
that's
okay with me at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yes. Well, good. Well, thank you for allowing me to share these stories and hopefully, they inspired you and hopefully inspire your viewers and listeners too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you so much. So, before we go, don't forget to go get his book and the Oracle cards. And Shawn, before we go, any last words or any things coming up that people should be aware of to sign up for?
Well, I mean, my course launches every September 7th to 30th, Spirit Talker Tribe.
Okay.
And it's a year-long course where I help people understand and develop their own intuitive and psychic abilities from my perspective and the way that I teach and the way it's kind of unfolded through me. So it's not like I've gone to take courses to understand how to teach it. It's something that I've learned to develop through myself and my understanding of how that expresses it through me. And I share that with people so that they can experience that for themselves, as opposed to thinking they have to go to a medium, that they become the medium, that they learn the connection through them. And I usually have about 770 students every year register, so which is amazing. And
Mm,
there's people from all walks of the world. I have like 3 or 4 students from Australia, and so I know people are like following me in the work that I do and my teachings, in different locations. And but I have my book coming out hopefully in the fall. Read this one first, obviously, Spirit Talker. But my Walking with Your Spirit Totem Animals is coming out hopefully in the fall. But if not, there should be a pre-sale coming up very soon online.
Oh, I can't wait. You'll have to come back and we'll have to
I would
talk.
love to come back. I got some amazing animal connection stories, just so you know.
I can't wait. And I'm just going to put that idea out there. Maybe you do a pit stop in Australia. They love you down
I would
under.
love to go to Australia. I would love to. I'd love to. So I'll miss
I
the boat
think
one
you'll
day
find
too.
some new followers, Sean. I think the Australian audience will love the way you present and the way you talk so candidly about things.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm just a person, right? I mean, there's nothing, just be who you are and don't be anything other than that. And just, I think that's where I'm just like everyone else. I'm relatable because I am like everyone else. I'm no different. And I think when
Mm,
people can see themselves through my experience, then it'll shift their life too for the better, I hope, and help them see their own divine connections of to spirit and their own ancestors that, they're not just for Indigenous people, not just for me, that they're for all of us. And I think if
absolutely.
I can inspire that in people wherever you are, then that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here to do this.
All right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening. Bye bye, everybody.
Okay. Have a good day. See you.
Okay.
Thank you.